loose again. Edwards off the running. Like the back down to Edwards. They hand it off to Johnson. Boise State has won. Right now, and they take a downfield shot. And the catch is made. It's Vernon Williams. Goes to the free. Touchdown. Going for the corner. He's got it.
And welcome back to another episode of the Gridiron Uncensored. I'm Trevor. You're here with Blake, and we are doing PITT, the PITT Panthers tonight, and we're diving into it. And I'll tell you what, I'm excited to talk about these guys a bit because I think that they unfortunately lost a big opportunity to do really well last season due to some major injuries to the roster about halfway through the season. So let's talk about that 2024 result, as I say. And it started out great, man. I'll tell you what, I was loving the fact that every week I could say hashtag save Narduzzi because his job, he was on the chopping block basically every week last year. And it was great to see. And then Holstein went down and got injured, and then the wheels fell off. Now the bowl game against Toledo, that was insanity.
Oh yeah,
6 overtimes. That was just insane. Oh, but to go 0-6, like we were talking about before we recorded, Blake, is just a rough way to end what I would say a very exciting start to the season.
Yeah. So I like Pittsburgh. I was a big fan of Eli Holstein coming from Bama, and I just wonder how much of it was premature on our part for how good they actually were. Because if you look at the schedule, the teams they played early on were not, the cream of the crop. And Granted, they did beat, West Virginia. They did beat North Carolina. Those are, home names, big name programs. But the rest of it, I mean, Kent State, Cincinnati, Youngstown, Cal, are those really that impressive? And they go and they play Syracuse and they force all the turnovers. I mean, that was Kyle McCord. I think that was the most turnovers he had ever had in a single game. Had 5 or 6 or something like that.
Yep.
And so then everybody's like, well, maybe they're for real. And then they get smoked by SMU, and the defense was just done at that point.
Yeah. They were having to do all the work because there was no real offensive production at that point.
Yeah.
But yeah. I mean, honestly, I'm looking forward to talking about 2025 because we're just going to move on and we're going to just not talk about 2024 anymore. But on the plus side, Pitt fans, mostly Narduzzi has brought basically everybody back on the coaching staff. There's no major changes to OC, DC, or anything like that. Pretty much everybody has stayed put that was there last year. And I think that bodes well for continuity, for recruiting, for all the good things that Pitt wants to do. And with recruiting and the transfer portal, Blake, let's dive into that a bit. Let's talk about what we're looking at now. They do have 15 departing transfers. They had 27 outgoing transfers and 15 coming in. So I'll tell you what, that's not a good ratio. I'm just going to say it. I'm just going to say it out loud so everyone knows it's not a good ratio.
Yeah, but I think they had enough pieces returning. They didn't have really high expectations out of the portal because I think they liked what they had as far as the starting lineup goes. Mm-hmm. But just out of the portal, I mean, they got some good guys. I think Jaden Moore, great pickup out of Oregon, an edge guy. Big, got some good size on him, 6'4", 245.
Yep, I agree.
Deuce Spann at receiver. That'll help out on the outside. So, I mean, it wasn't an awful class. Again, it's nothing, crazy, no like stargazing or anything like that. But I think for what they need, I think they got the pieces that they needed. For me, their biggest question is on the offensive line. They gave up a lot of sacks last year. and they did. They got some offensive linemen in the portal. They got Jeff Percy coming in out of Michigan,
Yep.
and then they got Kendall Stanley. But I'm about to pull a U right here. I don't know how to pronounce this last name. I've tried. Keith Guavea.
Guevea sounds right. Guevea sounds right.
Yeah, I mean they got some offensive linemen out of the portal, and
Yep.
they just need to settle down, come together. I like this team. I like what they're doing.
I like that they got a potential solid backup in Cole Gonzalez to their primary guy, just in case he does go down. Potentially, he could step in and actually keep moving the offense. But I also like where did he go? I like Andy Jean out of Florida, the wide receiver, 6'1", 184. I think he could be a good addition. Also, I like Deuce Spann, 6'4", 208, wide receiver out of Florida State. Now, I don't know about – I didn't see much production from them, but it's definitely one of those things where I feel like that they can come in and make an impact, even as a substitute piece to spell another wide receiver. I feel like that's good. I love that they brought in Justin Holmes, a smaller tight end, no doubt, out of Marshall. But I think that, I mean, if they're wanting to run the ball, they need to get some pieces that know how to block. And the one recruit that I think I'm kind of excited to see is Josh. Guerrier.
These names, they just get so hard.
They're getting harder and harder each season, I swear. But he's an athlete out of Florida, 5'9", 160. Looks like he could be a bit of a burner from the videos I was watching of him. And I mean, I'm telling you what, I like what they're cooking here in Pitt. However, I am withholding my excitement a little bit as far as the 2025 season, only because of how the wheels fell off last season and how one player basically blew it all up just by getting injured.
Well, let's move into what they've got coming back for this year. So
I've got their overall returning production at a 64%. That's 33rd in the nation. Offensive returning production is 66%. And defensive returning production is 61%. Overall, that's actually really good. Yeah. Honestly, offensive and defensive side of the ball, that's actually better than most.
Yeah.
If you want to touch on some players, go ahead and hit that real quick.
So just going through some of the positions here, we all know who the quarterback, Eli Holstein.
Yep.
He took the highlight reel by storm at the beginning of last year.
He did.
So this is how I feel about Pittsburgh. I think quarterback, if he stays healthy, offensive line, that's where my main concern is. If they can fix the offensive line problems and just give him some time to sit in the pocket, he will pick teams apart, and he's proven he can do that. But he can't be running for his life. They gave up a lot of sacks last year. In the backfield, they got Desmond Reed. I think he had some injuries, but overall, what they need out of him, I think he'll get the job done. Wide receiver room, I think they're stacked. I think they have some weapons. Kenny Johnson, Poppy Williams. But I'm also excited. Another guy I didn't mention coming in out of the portal, Kataris Hicks out of Louisville. You mentioned Deuce Spann out of Florida State. I think they've got a loaded wide receiver room. So lots of talent for Holstein there. Offensive line, they got 3 starters returning, but like Brendan, he's coined the phrase, not all production is good production.
Right.
So that concerns me a little bit. They do have continuity. They do know, how each other play, but they've got to plug in, some of the guys I mentioned earlier, Jeff Percy or Gueva, Kendall Stanley. These guys have got to step in, and they've got to get, a game plan and gel quickly if Pitt is going to have a successful season. Defensive line. I think they have a fantastic front if they can gel and mesh together. Same thing at linebacker. They got some good pickups there. Secondary, I would say, is probably the weakest unit of the defense. But again, it's one of those situations, just like I said with NC State. These guys have got to step up. They've got to get in the system and mesh immediately. All in all, I really like this team. I think they're poised. You fix the offensive line problems, the offense is going to have no issue. They've got so much talent on that team. I mean, they're just like a bucket of gas. They're just waiting on a match. And the match is the offensive line.
No, absolutely. And I think another position group on the defensive side of the ball that I think that they should be very excited about is their just overall linebacking core.
Yeah.
With the three returning linebackers, Kyle Lewis, Rasheem Biles, and Braylon Lovelace, I think are all potential. It's going to be very good to have that continuity at the linebacker position to help communicate. And more than likely, Kyle Lewis is going to be the captain of that defense.
Yeah.
On that as a linebacker.
And I do want to iterate too. A second ago, when I said the secondary is the weakest link, I'm not implying that they have an awful secondary by any stretch. I mean, I think they got some good players there. Cruz Brookins and Javon McIntyre, and then in the cornerbacks they got Rashad Battle, Shandarian Harrison. They're gonna ask a lot of these guys, but they've got to step up, and I think they will.
I do too. I think that they are all going to have a much better, much more complete 2025 season this year than they did last year. And
I agree.
With that said, let's talk a little bit about the 2025 season a little bit, because Pitt, we already know we feel like we kind of have an idea what they're going to be. But let's take a look at how the schedule shakes out to them. And I'm not going to lie to you, at first glance, Blake, I thought this schedule was not nice.
I agree. And mainly because I think there are some teams on here that, well, two in particular, that a lot of people are not going to give a lot of credit to, and that's Boston College. I think they're going to be a team that I don't think a lot of people are going to be very high on them, but I think they're going to be a very, very tough team. And then that game in Morgantown will be tough. And then the Louisville, I think Louisville's going to be a great team this year. This is not an easy schedule, which is why I'm trouble. Yeah, that's why I'm not super confident in the over/under on Pittsburgh.
Right. And and just to speak on that real quick, it's 6.5 over/under, which, looking at the schedule initially and still looking at it now, I am having a hard time finding 7 wins.
I'm having a hard time finding 5. I am. The first 2, there's 2, and then you've got Stanford.
West Virginia's a maybe.
Yeah, I mean, really, weeks 1 and 2, and then the first game in November at Stanford. Those are the only ones, in my opinion, that are locks for a win. And every other game is a losable game.
Yeah, and it's worth mentioning that. I know we talked about NC State before, and we've talked about North Carolina, and I will say that so far I feel like Pitt has the more travel-induced schedule out of this section of 3 teams that we've been covering. They have to go out to California to play Stanford. They have to go to New York to play Syracuse. They have to go down to Florida to play Florida State at Doak Campbell, which is not an easy place to play, no matter what Florida State's program status is.
Yeah.
They got to go down to the ATL to play at Bobby Dodd and play Georgia Tech. I'm telling you, man, this schedule is not. This is not an easy schedule. I think tough. Okay. So let's talk about this.
All right. Let's talk about it.
Okay. So I think, and this is the way I'm looking at this, is I think they can maybe squeak out a win. Nope. They're probably going to lose to West Virginia, because I'm very high on West Virginia this year. I think they can actually compete potentially for the Big 12 title. Louisville, that's probably a loss too. Shit. I'm re-looking at this schedule again, and I'm just tough, man. I'm really trying here, Pitt. I'm trying to find you wins
How
I
hard of a schedule is it when you avoid Clemson and North Carolina and it's still this hard?
Yeah.
It's
Mhm.
it's a tough one, and it's
That's
hard
right.
to sit here and pick it apart.
I think
I,
I think I can chalk wins up for Syracuse, Stanford, but I mean, traveling well is going to be a key with the Stanford one, because traveling all the way out to California, that's still a rough transition for a team that's probably not even used to really traveling out from the East Coast,
Mhm.
essentially outside the East Coast. So I think 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. Well, shit, guys.
It's hard to get to 6, man. It's hard.
I mean, I like Georgia Tech. I will chalk up a win for you against Georgia Tech. That gets you to 6. I don't think I can get you to 7 right now.
Yep.
In my head,
That's
I
the
don't think
thing.
I can get you to 7.
There's too many what ifs
Mhm.
with a lot of the ACC, and it's like the offensive line. To me, if their offensive line plays well, they could get 6. They
The
could get 8
ceiling
or
the
9.
ceiling for Pitt can
It's
be
high.
10. It could be
Yes,
11, honestly.
100%. The thing is staying healthy at quarterback
Yep.
and the offensive line being able to block.
Yeah.
Without those two things, I mean, I'm struggling to find 5 wins on that schedule. If they do those two things,
It's very tough.
the sky's the limit. I mean, they can compete with Miami. They can compete with any team up there. To
Yep.
me, Louisville, Miami, Notre Dame.
I mean,
Those are their toughest games.
it is a
Obviously,
blessing in disguise that they don't have to play Clemson, though.
it is.
I
But I
mean,
mean,
honestly.
is it
But
a blessing though when you have to play Louisville, Notre Dame, and Miami? That I mean, those are. I think
and then
Louisville's
you throw West Virginia at the beginning of the schedule on top of that, which we all
it's
think
tough.
is going to be improved.
So as of right now, today, I have to say I take the under, even though I am very high on Pittsburgh. But to me, there's just too much what ifs. Staying healthy is a tough thing to do in today's sport, and the offensive line, I need to see it. That may
Right.
change by week 4, but as of right now, I don't see them getting to 6 wins.
All right. Um, just for sheer argument's sake, I'm going to take the over.
Okay.
And only because I can see a scenario where West Virginia isn't performing the way it should early on in the season. Or uh whatever. I mean, or Florida State is a shell of itself again. Or Georgia Tech has a fumble in Atlanta. I mean, it's very easy. I mean, there was a couple games on their 2024 schedule that, I mean, it was a one possession game,
Mhm.
or it was a field goal game
Yeah.
difference. Honestly, whether they won or lost. So I'm going to give them the benefit. I'm going to give Eli Holstein the
Yeah.
benefit of the doubt that he comes back stronger with more experience, along with the defensive line, with the linebackers that will be able to get stops against some of these high-powered offenses. I feel like, but you're right, the secondary is cause for concern. So yes, I'm going to take the over, but I really think that Pitt could make a run.
Yep. I'm excited to watch this team because, like I said, they are loaded with talent,
Yep.
and that offense can be absolutely a task for a team to stop.
Yeah.
I have to go off of what I saw last year, and when you get an injury at quarterback, I'm just going to have to say you don't always come back the same. Some players do, some players don't.
That's very true.
Cam Rising never could recover from
Yeah,
it,
he was never the same player.
and sometimes that just happens. And I hope that's not the case here. But I have to go with my gut and what I think of a lot of these other teams in the ACC, and that's just a tough schedule to me. And I think 6 wins is going to be a tough thing to reach. If that offensive line gels, hey, they could win 10, 11 games. It would not shock me if they're playing for the ACC.
I mean, the hot streak that they were on before Holstein got injured was something that none of us really saw happening.
Yeah.
So, like, when it happened, it was, I thought, I mean, they could definitely catch the lightning in the bottle again for sure. But I guess we'll find out. We'll find out here in September, coming up very quickly.
It is 10 more Saturdays.
That's right, 10 more Saturdays, and we're there. Well, guys, Blake, do you got anything else?
I don't. I'm good.
All right. Well, guys, that wraps us up for Pitt. Pitt fans, don't forget to like, subscribe, and follow us. Share with your friends, and don't forget to comment down below about anything we might have not talked about or didn't mention, and let us know. You guys are boots on the ground for us, so we love to hear about the insights that you guys have about your team and what you guys think the outlook for them will be for 2025. So, if nothing else, Blake, that's it for us, and we will talk to you guys next time.
See you.